Hello, back again with another revision recording. This is for Unit 1 of AQA GCSE Business Studies, and it's Unit 1, Topic 4, People in Business. Well, when should a business recruit workers? Well, as the business grows, you're likely to need more people to do the jobs, so that's a good time to start looking to recruit. If a worker leaves, or you have to get rid of them because they're not very good, obviously you're going to have to recruit someone else. Or you might promote somebody. If somebody gets promoted within the business, you might have to recruit somebody else to come in at the bottom. For example, a hairdressing trainee might become a stylist, and therefore you've got to get a new trainee. It's important to get recruitment right. This might be an exam question. Explain to Bob why it's so important for his business to get his recruitment accurate. And it's because it's expensive to recruit somebody. You have to advertise the position. You've got to spend time interviewing, reading the CVs, and then you've actually got to train the new worker. And that takes time, and obviously that costs money. You've got to get the right person, because if you get somebody who's going to treat your customers badly, you're going to lose customers, and therefore that's going to affect your sales and profit. You also need to make sure, and this is something we look at later on, that it's ethical and legal. If you discriminate against somebody, for example, then you could be in trouble. So it's important that you show that you're conducting a fair process to recruit your workers. Something that students typically find difficult is talking about whether it's good to have full-time or part-time workers. Don't get confused between seasonal workers, who are people who might come in just to help out at Christmas or in the summer holidays when you're very busy. Full and part-time workers just means that somebody works either a full contract, so it might be Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, whereas a part-time worker might do Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, 10 till 2, and they're just an additional support. There is no difference to the way you have to treat them. Part-time workers have the same employment rights. You'll still have to give them holidays, you'll still have to give them sick pay, and you'll probably still pay them the same per hour. The difference is in what you need for your business. If you've got somebody full-time, if you've got one person full-time as opposed to two part-timers, it's going to be cheaper to train one person, isn't it, than have to train two people. If, however, a part-timer might be good, if you just had a part-time Saturday worker because your shop's busy on a Saturday, then you've only got to pay them for when you need them, for when you're busy. The workers might feel more secure if they're full-time. They might feel, well, I'm part of this business, I'm here all the time, whereas a part-timer might feel a little bit like, well, I'm just on the edges here, I'm not really part of the business, and might not feel so committed. But that's absolutely not necessarily the case for everybody. It's easier to manage somebody who's full-time if they're always there. You know they're there, you know they're party to everything, they're listening to everything, and they know what's going on in the business, whereas a part-timer might miss something if they're out that particular day. The recruitment process is fairly straightforward, but again, you might get asked this in an exam. Obviously, what you've got to decide first of all is, what do you want the person to do? So you need a job description. What does the job actually involve? Then you need to decide, well, what kind of person do we need to do that job? What skills, qualifications do they need? What sort of personality do they need? So this is called a person specification. Then you can advertise your vacancy. Now, where you do this obviously will depend on your business. You might advertise online on one of the job sites. You might go to the local job centre that's owned by the government. You might advertise in the local newspaper. You might put signs up in the local shop, or you might try and tell people, ask around if anybody knows someone who might like the job. But again, that depends very much in an exam question on what's actually in the case study. So look carefully at what the context of the case study is. Then you need to shortlist. Okay, I've got 100 CVs. I'm not going to interview 100 people. Let's draw up a shortlist. The actual interviews, you might actually make the candidates do some tests as well. You might put them in a situation and pretend that they're dealing with a customer, and then you have to select them and obviously then get them in and train them up. Just looking at how people apply, if you ask them to send you a CV, then you can ask specifics. You can find out what the person's like. You might have a candidate who handwrites their CV and it looks a complete scruffy mess, and you think, not best for my job. But if you do an application form, then you can ask exactly what you want to know about that candidate. So again, it depends on the job. Some places ask for a CV and an application form, some ask for a covering letter. It depends what sort of information you're looking for. Now, another thing you're supposed to know about is internal or external recruitment. If we've got a job vacancy, should we offer it to someone from within the organisation as a promotion, or should we get somebody from outside? Now, the benefits of getting somebody internal are that you already know what that worker's like. You already know what their strengths and weaknesses are. They already know the business, so they're going to hit the ground running. It might be cheaper to do because you haven't got to do lots of external advertising and interviewing, but you might need to train them in the specific area that you're moving into them. And also it'll make that worker feel really good because you've promoted them, you've trusted them enough to promote them, which leads to motivation, obviously, for that worker and a harder working worker. However, that could, if you promote somebody internally, it could make other workers within your business feel a bit, well, why didn't I get promotion? Why did he get promoted? I'm better than him, etc., etc. So you might cause some demotivation amongst your other workers. So therefore, if you've got somebody new in from the outside, you're not going to have that problem to the same extent. Somebody from outside is going to have new ideas that they bring from another business that might be good for your business. You might get a higher standard of applicant. You might be able to recruit somebody who's got higher skills than people inside your organisation. And if you recruit internally and promote somebody internally, then obviously they're going to create a gap and you're going to have to recruit anyway lower down in your organisation. Whereas if you recruit somebody externally to that higher position, then you're not going to need to recruit further down the organisation. So swings and roundabouts, and it's a nice discussion in an exam question. Now, how much to pay our employees? Well, you need to think about how much skills and what are their skills? What's the experience they've got? Somebody inexperienced is going to get paid less for the same work than somebody who's got more experience. How much are other firms paying? If other firms are paying a lot more for the same work, we're going to lose our staff to them. And then we can think about, are we paying any bonuses? Commission. Are we giving them a pension? Commission is where if they sell a sofa, they get 10% of the value of the sale. A bonus might be if they sell 10 sofas that month, they get a bonus of 20% in their wage packet that month. A wage is when you pay per hour or day that the worker is working. A salary is where you pay a fixed amount set by year and then that's paid monthly. Doesn't matter what hours they work. There's the difference between monetary rewards and non-monetary rewards. Monetary are things that you pay to staff that involve cash. So, for example, their wage or salary, bonus, pension or commission. And then you get what's called non-monetary rewards, or otherwise known as fringe benefits. And these are things like company cars, free healthcare, you might get gym membership. So they don't involve payment of cash, but they are seen as pay as part of the pay package. And this leads nicely into how to motivate your staff. If somebody's motivated at work, they want to finish the job and they want to do a good job for you. And if we've got motivated workers, they work harder, which means they're more productive. They give a better customer service. They want the business to succeed, so they don't make so many mistakes, and they're less likely to leave. And we've already said, haven't we, that recruiting new workers is expensive, so we don't want them to leave particularly. We've looked in lessons at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You don't have to actually mention this, but we look at it because it gives you some good ideas about how to motivate workers apart from just paying them. And very few small businesses can afford to pay their workers a lot. In fact, most businesses can't afford to keep constantly putting up the pay of their workers. So they have to look at other ways that we're motivated. So if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, once you've covered your basic physiological needs like food and water and safety, so we need to feel safe, we need to have food in our bellies, then we can think about those higher needs such as social, self-esteem, and then self-fulfillment or self-actualization. So when you're thinking about how to motivate workers in ways other than money, you can think about things like, well, we could cover the workers' social needs by holding a social event, or we could provide a staff room, or by giving them responsibility or rewarding them with maybe a promotion, we can make them feel good about themselves and therefore fulfill their self-esteem needs. If we send them on training courses and develop their skills, they might feel self-fulfilled or self-actualised, which is that higher need on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So think about small firms and motivating employees. You could give them responsibility, you could train them, give them more challenge in their jobs, make them feel challenged, make it a little bit harder, give them variety of tasks. That will make it more motivating and interesting. Listen to them, listen to their input, and try and team build and get them to feel bonded as a team. The last part of this unit, this section, is looking at legislation or laws that protect employees. Now, obviously, businesses have to be aware of these, because if you don't follow these rules, then you're likely to get taken to what's called a tribunal. It'll cost you money, and obviously your name goes into the newspapers and gives you bad public relations or bad publicity. So the different laws that are out there, you don't need to know them off by heart for exams, but you do need to know what they mean for small businesses. So the first one would be the Equal Pay Act, which was introduced in 1970. If you're employing men and women, they must be paid the same rate for similar work. So you can't pay men more than women for doing similar work or the same job. The Minimum Wage Act from 1998 sets a minimum wage per hour for workers, and employers shouldn't pay below that minimum wage. There's the Race Discrimination Act from 1976. If you've got two people sat in front of you for the same job, you are not allowed to choose one over the other on the grounds of their race. So if you're a company that's owned by people of Afro-Caribbean origin, you can't say we're not employing whites. That's illegal. Disability Discrimination Act, that was brought in 1995. If there's a disabled person and there's no reason why they can't do the job for you, their disability doesn't stop them doing the job, then if they've got the same qualifications and skills, you can't not employ them just because they're disabled. There's the Equality Act from 2010, which means that you can't discriminate against someone because they're older. You can't say you're too old to do this job now, off you go, if they're doing a perfectly good job. The Employment Protection Act from 1978 means that employees have rights. You have the right to a contract, which sets out the terms of your employment. You have the right to know what your sick pay, your holiday pay are, and what your notice period is, how long you have to give your employer if you're leaving. Do you have to tell them a week before you leave, a month before you leave? And then there's various acts on health and safety. Employees have the right to work in a safe environment, but also you have to be told where the fire exits are and what to do if there's a fire. And obviously in some organisations there's more specific health and safety needs, and you must be trained in those. And that's the employer's responsibility, and they can get hefty fines into a lot of trouble if they don't keep their workers safe. That's the end of People in Business.